Hello, my loves. Today, we're going to focus on fractions as percents. And we're going to use this information to help you understand how your grades are calculated. So our standard for today is understanding place value. And that place value, remember, it's 10 times as much as the place to its right, or 1/10 the place to its left. So when we're talking about percents, we're specifically talking about how many per 100. So with decimals, we're talking about the hundredths place. We're going to convert fractions into percents. How can you change a fraction into a percent? Our lead measure. So we're going to talk about how your grades are converted from a fraction to a percent. And then we're going to practice with IXL, converting fractions to percents. Don't forget you've got those two iReady teacher assigned lessons. Those are rounding and practice rounding, because that's what we do to calculate our grades. We have to round to the nearest hundredths place. And of course, don't forget 50 minutes for math and 50 minutes for reading. Okay, so let's talk about your grades, and we're going to convert fractions into percents. So for instance, let's say that you have an assignment that is 25 questions. So that means the total amount, 100%, would be 25. If you have 25 questions. Now, in order for us to calculate your grade, we have to find out how many are correct. Now, usually on that piece of paper that has the heading, and then it has your name and it has your date, the teacher will put at the top of the paper like -3. When they put -3, you have to automatically say, well, if there are 25 questions, it's 25 minus 3, which means you got 22 correct. So you have 22 out of 25, 22 25ths, okay? So there are two ways that we can convert this to a percent. And the easiest way is to take a look here at your denominator. Can your denominator be easily turned into 100? 25 to 100? Yes, it can. 4/4 is 100, which means then you only have to multiply that. Your grade, if you got 3 wrong, is an 88%, which is it's a very high B. It's almost an A. So that's how a teacher would convert your grade from a -3 with 25 questions. Okay, let's say on your test paper, you've got the heading, here's your name and your date, because of course you always put your name and your date on your paper. And then your teacher says you've got -7. But then the teacher didn't put what your grade is. You have to figure it out yourself. So step 1 is to find the total problems. How many problems are there? Well, let's say the problem is there's 20 questions on this test paper, and you missed 7. So do you see how it even says right there -7? Look, right there. And when I regroup, I have 7, 8, 9, 10. If I got 7 wrong, that means I got 13 right. So I have 13 out of 20. Now I'm getting closer to finding my grade. So remember, there's 2 ways to calculate this as a percent. We can do division, 13 divided by 20, or we could take 13/20ths and we could see if we could easily turn that into 100. Which would be easier, long division or finding how many times 20 can go into 100? Well, I'd rather do this one. How do I get 20 to equal 100? I'm going to multiply by, well, let's see, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. I'm going to multiply by 5, which means I need to multiply this by 5. 13 times 5. I've got a 15, 65. Oh man. So it's 65 out of 100, which means you've got a 65%, which is a D. That's not too great. I mean, you passed, but definitely I would go to that teacher and say, I'm not really happy with that D. Is there any way that I can study and take it again? Or, I mean, some teachers might say no, but some might say yes, and it couldn't hurt you to ask. So, practice. And even if they say, no, you can't do this assignment again, still go back to this assignment and check it over and redo the problems, because you're going to have a test later based on this. And then even if this is a test, you're going to have a midterm or FSA or a final exam. This is not the only time you're going to see this information. You're going to see it over and over, and you're going to see it again the next year too. So make sure that you learn it and understand it. All right, let's do another one. Let's say on your test paper that has your heading and your name and today's date, of course, because you always put that there. And the teacher says it's -4. That's what your teacher tells you. And you said, okay, well, let me count how many problems there are on this page. Let's say total is 17. That's kind of a weird number, and teachers, to be honest, we try not to give you tests that have strange numbers like 17. We love to give tests that have 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 or 25, because it's just easier to get to 100%. It's just easier with those numbers. 17, no, it's not easy. But sometimes, we have no choice. So what my first step is, I need to find out how many I have right. If I got 4 wrong, oh, that means I got 13 right. Okay, so I got 13 right on the last activity too, but here's the difference. This one is 13 right out of 17. That last one was 13 right out of, 20? So your grade's going to be very different. So I got 13 right out of how many total? 17. Now your first step is to think, can I turn 17 into 100? Not gonna happen, is it? So now we have to do division. 13 divided by 17. 13 divided by 17. Okay, get your paper and pencil. We did this yesterday, and now the numbers are a little bit more challenging, but you can still do this. Can 17 go into 13? No, it cannot. So I'm going to break it up, and I'm going to add tenths now. So now I have 130 with 17. I could do guess and check, or I could use that wonderful hashtag helper that Miss Spalding taught us about. 17 times 1 is 17. 17 times 2. 17 times 2 is 4. Well, that's going to be 34. And add another 17 to that. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 3, 4 is going to be 51. Plus another 17 is going to be 68. We're getting closer. 68 plus another 17. 14, 15, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 85. Now the reason that I'm doing this is because I know that I'm going to need to multiply by 17 more than once in this problem. So I'm going ahead and leaving all these answers up there to really help me out further along. I have 85 plus another 17, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 8, 9, 10. Oh, 102, I'm so close. 102 plus 17 is 119. And what's 119 plus another 17? I've got a 6, a 3, 136 went too high, didn't it? So I'm going to go back to 119. Perfect. 119. Now, how did I get there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 17 is 119. Now let's subtract. 0 minus 9, can't do it. Knock on my neighbor's door. Hey, can I borrow a 10? It's always a 10. And he says, sure, I've got 3 10s. Let me give you one. And now my neighbor's down to 2. And I had $0 in my pocket, but now I've got that tenner that my neighbor gave me. 10 minus 9 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. And then I've got a 0. 4th grade says, put a remainder. 5th grade, we're going to keep on keeping on. Bring that down. Now I'm at 110. Will 119 work? Not this time. We're going to go back to 102. And that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good thing we did that hashtag helper. 102. Can't do it. I'm going to have to regroup. 10, 9, 8. Now I've got an 8. Put another 0. Bring that down. Now I'm looking for 8. 85, too high. 68 works. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times 17 is 68. This becomes a 7, this becomes a 10, and that becomes a 2. And if I bring this down and now I've got a 20, I can put a 1, 17, 18, 19, 20, that's going to be a 3. And now I've got a 30, and I'm going to do a 1 again. Oh my goodness, that's just keeping going, going, going. Have you ever had a grade like that that says 0.76411? No, you're not going to have that grade. Your grade is going to stop in the hundredths place because your grade is a percent, and your percent is out of 100. So what does that mean? That means that we have to round to the nearest hundredth. And let's find my queen. She says, let it rest. So it's going to be a 76%. So if you got 4 wrong out of 17 problems, you've got a C. You've got a 76%. All of this math, teachers do this math. Absolutely. And then, you know, some of the teachers, if they're grading a lot of pages, they have a table that they can look at that's kind of a shortcut. And what that table does is it already does the math for you. But it's here. I mean, it's the math. I tend to do the math because I like to keep my brain sharp and I like to practice, practice, practice. Remember what I said back in class, that if we have a total of 4 problems, then that means you really have to do well. Because if you got a -1, that means you have 3/4 correct. If you got a -2, that means you only have 2/4 correct. A -3, you have 1/4 correct, and a -4, you have 0/4 correct. Right? You remember us saying that? So let's think about this in terms of decimals. Not decimals, sorry, fractions and percentages. How do I go from 4 to 100? I multiply by 25. So 3 times 25 is 75. So if you got 1 wrong, it's automatically a 75%, which is a C. If you got 2 wrong, now 2/4, I could say, oh, well, it's still 20 times 25. Or you could think 2/4 is 1/2. What's 1/2 of 100? 50%. You got half of them correct. You have an F, guys. 1/4 times 25 times 25, you've got a 25%, which is a lower F. And then, of course, you've got a 0%, which is the lowest you can get. So if you have an assignment that's 4 problems long, you need to make sure that you take every second that you have to get every single one of those problems correct. Because just 1 problem wrong will give you a C. That's your choice. You either get an A+, or you get a C, or you get an F. You have no other choices when there's a problem, an activity this small. What if there's a total of 5 problems? then you would have a total of 5, and you need to get to 100%, right? To find that percentage. All right, get your paper and pencil, and I want you to find out if you got -1 wrong, then you have a 4 out of 5, right? -2 is going to be 3. -3, -4, -5. Continue this pattern, and let's see if you can find out what the grades are. Okay, so you know what? My first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit neater. If I have 5 problems and I've got -1, that means I have 4 out of 5. -2, I've got 3 out of 5. -3, I have 2 correct out of 5. -4, means I have only 1 correct out of 5. And -5, I have 0 correct. I like this now that I've got more room here. Okay. So how do I turn this to 100? I times 20, right? 5 times 20. 4 times 20 is 80. That's an 80%, which is a B. Ooh, it's a B minus, but hey, we'll take it. -2, you've got a 3 out of 5. In order to get that 100 again, multiply by 20, multiply by 20, you've got a 60, which is a D. Here, to get to that 100, 100 times 20, guess what? You've got a 40, which is an F. Here, 1 out of 5, 5 times 20 is 100. 1 times 20 is 20. You've got a 20%, which is an F. And then, of course, a 0%, which is the lowest F you can get. So if your assignment has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 problems, the only way you're going to get a passing grade is if you get an A+, which is 0 wrong, or a B, which is 1 wrong, or a D, which is 2 wrong. Everything else is going to be an F. And this is where you want to be, right? So that means you need to make sure that you got this many correct. So you need to really focus and practice, practice, practice on those. Let's talk about one more. What if we had a nice big test that was out of 50 problems? And let's say you got 35 correct. If you got 35 correct, how many wrong did you get? Pause the video, use your paper, and find out how many wrong was on your paper. Let's do the math. If I had 50 total and I have 35 correct, I just subtract those. That means I got -15. I got 15 wrong on my test. If I got 35, it means I got 35 out of 50. So what is my percent? Pause the video again and find that percent. All right, did you get 70%? Here's how I got 70. I know in order to go from 50 to 100, I have to double it, which means I have to double this, which is 70%. And it's actually a C minus, but I'll take that C. I don't worry about C minuses or pluses. I don't worry about any of that stuff. We'll turn it into a Mickey Mouse. I don't worry about it. A C is a C to me. All right? C's mean you can do better with practice. So look what happened. I got 15 wrong here, and I still got a C. But on some of the other activities, if I only get 1 wrong, I've got a C. So please make sure that you really, really focus. Sometimes we have maybe like a spelling test that has a total of 10 problems, right? So I want you to use your piece of paper And I want you to find out the total possibilities. If you got, let's make a little table. I like tables. If you have 10 wrong, or if you have a 10 total and you got 1 wrong, I'm going to give you a tip on this one. If you got 1 wrong, then that means you've got 9/10 correct. And then I want you to tell me what the percentage is. It's going to be a 90%, which is an A. Technically, it's A minus, but that's okay. Finish that table. What if you get -2? What if you get -3? Okay, continue that table. Pause the video. Okay, -5, -6, I'm running out of room, -7, -8, -9, and bloop, 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 -10. Okay, perfect. All right, let's see how your table compares to mine. If I got 2 wrong, that means the number correct is 8 out of 10. And that means if it's 8 out of 10, it's 80 out of 100. It's an 80%, which is a B. If I got 3 wrong, that means I got 7 right, because 7 plus 3 is 10. 7/10 is 70 hundredths, which is a C. -4. So if I got 10 minus 4, I'm going to have 6/10, which is a 60%, because it's 6 hundredths. That's a D. -5 means I got 5/10, which is half, isn't it? 50%, F. How about -6? I got 4/10. You see the pattern? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3/10, 2/10, 1/10, and 0/10. I'm running out of space. Look at the pattern here. 9/10 is 90%, 8/10 is 80%, 7/10 is 70%, 6/10 is 60, 5/10 is 50, 4/10 is 40, 3/10 is 30. Is this what your table looked like? 20, 10, and then of course 0%. And these, unfortunately, are all Fs. So when you have an assignment that has 10 problems, you definitely want to stay here. You want to get at the very most 3 wrong, because you want to get that good grade. 4 wrong, that's okay. I mean, you're passing. You definitely don't want these. No, you don't want those. All right, let me clear it. Okay, here we are at IXL. So what I would like for you to do is you can review how to convert between percents, fractions, and decimals, or you can come back up here and you can review rounding decimals. Nope, I want you to do this one. Convert fractions to decimals. That's the one I want you to do. Converting a fraction to a decimal. Just do a couple of those problems. Go ahead and write it out on a piece of paper and show your thinking. Don't just put the answers on a piece of paper. That doesn't mean anything to anybody. On a piece of paper, show something like this. 19 over 100 equals 19%. That's what I want you to show on that paper. So that way you can show what you've been working on. Uh-oh, nope, I almost made that mistake. Look, I bet you Daisy was like, no, Miss Allison, don't do it. Am I right? Probably Chrisari too. You guys love to catch me and help me stop making my mistakes. It says as a decimal number. We need to do it as a decimal number. Okay, so we're converting it to a decimal number, so it's going to be 0.19, right? It'll be 9. Where's my thingy? There we go. 0.19. So yes, we know it's 19%, but it's also going to be 0.19 as a decimal number. So you know what? That was my mistake. I made another mistake. Let me go back. Let me go back. I do want you to do the first one that I told you to do. Scooch down, scooch down, scooch down. Keep going, keep going. Here we go. Is that the right one? Yep, okay, perfect. Convert fractions to decimals. No, we want to convert fractions into percentages. So let's go back down to percentages, percents, there we go. So I want you to convert between percents, fractions, and decimals, all right? So do a couple more problems of that. And then yes, come back here and you can round some of those decimals as well, because when we're turning those fractions into grades, we stop at the hundredths place. Absolutely we do. All right, my loves, get to practicing, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, love you, bye.